What's going on?
We have a witness out there that's screaming and yelling that he needs to go to work, and we're telling him he's under subpoena, he's got to stick around, so we're trying to...
All right, I understand.
Hash that out.
I understand.
You know, people don't want to be here.
All right, we ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Elaine, bring him in.
Are you calling a witness right now?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that a...
Okay. I just wanted I didn't know if you were playing that first or calling a witness.
No.
Okay.
Jurors entering?
Please be seated. Good morning. I apologize for our technical difficulties, but finally it took the better part of an hour, but hopefully everything is corrected. And just for scheduling purposes, we're going to be ending again tonight at 4:45. We're right around there. State, call your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Dr. Gary Goodsman.
Thank you. Okay. Raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Gary Wayne Kunzman, Kunsman.
Thank you.
Please have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Close to the microphone.
Thank you.
And state, as soon as he's comfortable, you may proceed.
Good morning, Dr. Goodsman.
Morning.
Where do you work?
I am the chief toxicologist for the Broward County Office of Medical Examiner and Trauma Services.
How long have you been the chief toxicologist at the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office?
It was 5 years the beginning of May.
What other experience do you have in the field of toxicology?
Prior to coming to Broward County, I was excuse me, if I could, I'd just like to, I have dark glasses on because I have a migraine and the fluorescent lights bother me. I normally don't like to testify without people being able to see me, but I hope that's okay.
It's fine.
Thank you, sir. Before coming here, I was the chief toxicologist for the medical examiner in Oakland County, Michigan, and I was there for 9.5 years. 7.5 years prior to that, I was the chief toxicologist for the Bexar County, that's B-E-X-A-R, Bexar County, Texas, which is San Antonio, the chief medical examiner there. Prior to that, I was I started as the deputy chief and then became the co-director of the Division of Forensic Toxicology for the Office of the Armed Forces Medical Examiner. That was about 3.5 years. Then I spent a year in Oklahoma with the Office of the Medical Examiner there. And prior to that, it was school.
Okay,
a lot of school.
Tell us about your school.
My PhD is in pharmacology from the Louisiana State University Medical Center at Shreveport, where I did research on the effects of drugs and alcohol on human performance. In other words, people's ability to perform psychomotor tasks, especially related to driving. And prior to my PhD, my Bachelor of Science degrees in chemistry from Virginia Tech.
Can you explain to us how toxicology might come into the performance of an autopsy? What's the procedure at the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office when there's an autopsy?
In a death investigation, the role of the toxicologist in the toxicology lab is to assist the medical examiner in determining cause of death. The medical examiner is the person who's responsible for determining the cause of death, which is the essentially the instrumental cause, what actually happened. Gunshot wound, run over by a car, well, they call it blunt force trauma, I'm sorry. And then manner of death, of course, being accident, homicide, or undetermined. And so the role of the toxicology laboratory is we receive post-mortem specimens or autopsy specimens and test those for the presence of drugs and poisons, with the underlying mission to provide information to the medical examiner so that they can incorporate that into all the information that they get, pardon me, about the scene at which a death occurs, any medical history we might know about the decedent, and the information that they learn at autopsy. And from that information, the analytical data, and then if they need any assistance from me as the toxicologist in interpreting what those results mean, they then determine cause of death.
Dr. Goodsman, did you perform toxicology analysis in case number 14-1118?
Yes, we did.
And who is the deceased person in that autopsy?
I just have to to look at my final report. Fakerdine Knight.
And can you tell us, please, how did you conduct your toxicology analysis?
We have a fairly well-established procedure that we follow in all of our post-mortem cases. And so after the autopsy is conducted, we receive specimens and log them into our computer system so that every specimen, whether it's blood, urine, vitreous fluid, the fluid from the eye, or other tissues, each one gets a unique identifier so that we can track it through the lab and through the different procedures we perform. Once everything is logged in and assigned, we perform a number of standard tests, the first being, we don't necessarily do them in this order, but this is the way I think of them. We perform an analysis called volatiles analysis. That's principally the test for ethanol, and it also allows us to detect acetone and isopropanol, which oftentimes are present in diabetics. Then from that test, we also, or in addition, we perform what's called an immunoassay screen. That's a relatively quick and easy test to perform, and it gives us a present or not present result for drug classes. And what I mean by that is, for example, oxycodone is a member of the class of drugs called opiates. And so on this test, if oxycodone is present, we would get an opiate positive result. If Xanax or alprazolam is present, we would get a benzodiazepine positive. That screen then gives us some basic idea of if we need to do any further directed testing. Then we also perform one other general screen which uses the gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, and that drug screen allows us to identify specific drugs that are present, and that test covers a wide variety of drugs from amphetamine, methamphetamine, dextromethorphan, which is for cough suppressant, a lot of the antidepressants, some of the cardiac medications, and a number of illicit drugs as well.
Did you perform those analysis, examinations, and tests in case number 14-1118?
Yes, we did.
Now, what is the specimen that you used when you conducted the toxicology in this case?
We used cavity blood.
Can you tell us what that is, please?
In a number of, perhaps if I say it this way, our preferred specimen for analysis is blood, and we refer to it as peripheral blood as opposed to central blood. Peripheral blood comes from the femoral vein or the femoral artery and from the subclavian in the shoulder. Central blood is from the heart, and there are a number of reasons that we prefer these peripheral specimens, and they are pharmacologic reasons. They're based on the way drugs distribute throughout the total body. Since when you take different drugs, they don't concentrate throughout the body in the same way. They concentrate based on the nature of the drug itself. So although we prefer to have these peripheral specimens, we have, in some autopsies, the medical examiner is not able to obtain an isolated or a peripheral specimen, and the only blood or blood-like fluid that's available for analysis is collected from the chest cavity or the abdominal cavity.
Okay. When you analyze the specimen with the procedure you explained to us, you then get a drug class and a result.
Yes.
Please explain to us, when you conducted the toxicology and you tested the specimens in this case, each drug class and result.
I'll start with the way I described the tests, and that's the first thing that we tested was for the volatiles, and we detected in the cavity blood the presence of ethyl alcohol or ethanol, and that was at a concentration of 0.08 grams per deciliter. We also tested what is listed on our report as ocular fluid, which is commonly referred to as vitreous fluid, or it's the fluid that's in the eye. And we test that specimen for volatiles as well, because there's a well-established relationship between alcohol in the blood and alcohol in the vitreous fluid. And that concentration was also 0.08 grams per deciliter. Then proceeding to the immunoassay tests, which, as I said, look for various classes of drugs, we did not get, I'm sorry, we got positive results for a number of different classes of drugs. We got a positive for barbiturates, a positive for benzodiazepines, a positive for amphetamines and methamphetamines, a positive for antidepressants, a positive for cannabinoids, and a positive for cocaine metabolite. That test essentially, we're looking for, it's the most specific of the tests that we do. We're looking for the primary inactive metabolite of cocaine. And simply because it's present at higher concentrations, it's easier to detect. And so from all of those positive results, then the next test being the either just the general GCMS screen, GCMS being the abbreviation for gas chromatography mass spectrometry. It's easier to say and easier to spell. We do that test, and in addition, based on the immunoassay results, because there are some drugs that we cannot detect with this general screen, we do what I call directed testing. And that also is reported as a GCMS procedure. So on our report, when we list drugs that are identified, the report, our reporting system doesn't allow us to differentiate between the basic drug screen and those directed tests. And I belabor that point just because when you get to look at the toxicology report, it'll help you understand why there's only this one additional class. But the only things that we identified based on the GCMS analyses, we detected cocaine present at a concentration of 0.06 milligrams per liter, cocaethylene, which is a product that the body produces, or I should say a drug the body produces when there is both ethyl alcohol present and cocaine. Cocaethylene has essentially the same central nervous system effects as cocaine. It simply stays in the body for a longer period of time. We also detected the primary inactive metabolite of cocaine, which is benzoylecgonine, and another breakdown product of cocaine called ecgonine methyl ester. We generally refer to those as BE and EME. Again, they're easier to say and easier to spell. We also detected the presence of the primary inactive metabolite of the principal psychoactive component in marijuana. And to try and say that a little more clearly, when people smoke marijuana, the component that gives the high, what gives that pleasurable effect, is called delta-9 THC. And although we did not detect delta-9 THC, we did detect the metabolite, which is called delta-9 THC carboxylic acid. And that was present at a concentration of 17 nanograms per milliliter. We also detected levamisole, which we're familiar with as a cutting agent in cocaine, and a drug called alpha PDP, which is commonly known as Flocka.
Okay, Dr. Goodsman, what is the difference between a positive result and an unconfirmed positive result?
For the immunoassay tests, we report results out as either none detected, meaning we found we didn't get a positive result, we found nothing, or we report a positive or an unconfirmed positive. A positive result on an immunoassay test means that we got a result that said there's something there in a particular drug class. But we were not able to confirm it by a different analytical method. And a fundamental rule in forensic toxicology is screen positives, like the immunoassay, have to be confirmed by a different analytical and more sophisticated technique. And essentially, that simply means finding a general positive. We have to then go to a more sophisticated technology to verify that there is in fact a positive and what drug is causing that positive result. And so the unconfirmed positive means that although the immunoassay gave us a positive result, we were not able to verify that a member of that particular drug class was present.
Okay, and did that happen in your toxicology of this case?
Yes.
Which drug classes did you find a unconfirmed positive result for?
Actually, I need to slightly correct what I just said. In 2014, I have subsequently changed the reporting procedure to try and clarify some of this unconfirmed versus confirmed positives. In 2014, what we were doing was whenever we got an immunoassay positive, since that was a test that required a confirmation, and the confirmation had not yet been performed, I reported them all as unconfirmed positive. Even if on the subsequent test we did identify that drug and were able to say that it's definitely there. I apologize for that, and that confusion probably explains why I changed the way we report it. And so all of the immunoassay results in this report are listed as unconfirmed positive because at the time of the immunoassay test, those positive results, no additional testing had been done to verify that a drug in that class was actually present. I hope that cleared that up. I'm sorry about that.
Dr. Quincy, can you tell us the date of when these drugs were consumed?
No.
Can you tell us the time that they were consumed?
No. The only thing that I can say is that they were consumed prior to death.
Do you know how long these drugs were in the decedent's system?
Well, for drugs like cocaine, we have a fairly good knowledge of how long these drugs are detectable after time of last use in what we refer to as the general population. And so a lot of studies have been done and a lot of results have been published in post-mortem cases that allow us to say that in general, when parent cocaine, the central nervous system active drug, is taken and is still detectable in blood, time of use is probably somewhere within 10 to 12 hours prior to death. So from the time of last use of the drug, anywhere from a matter of minutes to 10 to 12 hours in the general population of this large group of people that have been tested. We can't say specifically how long a drug would remain in a particular individual without actually testing that individual, because everyone has a unique metabolism and everyone has a unique history of how they use, overuse, misuse, or abuse drugs. So, and we can say the same thing in the case of cannabinoids, or the components in marijuana, that detecting the inactive metabolite, not detecting the active drug, generally suggests that time of use was within 2 to 3 hours prior to death. For drugs like alpha PVP, we know very, very little about the pharmacology of alpha PVP. And when I talk about the pharmacology of a drug, we're essentially, we've divided up pharmacology, the study of drugs, into two areas. Pharmacodynamics, which is how the drug affects the body, and in other words, whether it causes increased heart rate, whether it causes visual problems, makes you stumble, lose your balance, loss of motor control. And pharmacokinetics, which is how the body affects the drug. So how the body metabolizes the drug, distributes the drug, and eliminates the drug from the body. A drug like alpha PVP, we know almost nothing about any of those things.
Okay. And do you know how much of these drugs the deceased victim actually consumed?
No.
Do you, in explaining this to us about what generally the studies have shown, are you telling us that different drugs affect different people differently?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions at this time. Thank you, Dr. Goodsman.
And in defense, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hopefully it's still morning, but thank you.
Oh.
Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Flazey asked you about your training and experience. In addition, you've also testified numerous times in front of juries like this, correct?
I have.
Okay, do you remember how many?
I stopped counting at 50, and that was around about 1994.
1994?
Yes.
And in fact, in 2015, you testified in front of the Broward County Grand Jury, correct?
Concerning NPSs, yes, I did.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you about that in a second. Okay, so the grand jury was convened then in 2015 to investigate the synthetic drug problem in Broward County, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's your understanding that that grand jury was convened at the request of...
Objection to relevance.
Not every question, but just generally what topics?
Objection to relevance.
Well, we're going
I thought I...
to sustain the objection. Do you need to go sidebar for an explanation on it, or I just want you to get to the...
Okay. You testified regarding the behavioral effects of synthetic drugs on people, correct?
I have, yes.
Okay. And alpha PVP is one of those synthetic drugs, correct?
Yes.
And that's the drug that primarily prompted this investigation, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, I want to turn your attention to the analysis that you did in case 14-1118. Now, you previously testified to various substances that you found in the system of Mr. Knight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you first about the effects of those drugs on the body itself. Can you explain the method for determining the effects of various drugs on the human body? How do we know that? How do we understand that?
We know that in principally two different ways. One is, and this is primarily in terms of therapeutic medications, they go through a number of trials, and some of which initially they are animal trials, and animal trials have been established over a number of years, and certain types of animal behaviors have been related to what ultimately manifest as behaviors in people. In other words, just because a rat responds in one way doesn't mean a person will respond in the same way. But we know from doing these various trials that certain types of responses in animals result in certain types of responses in people.
Okay.
And then these trials also involve people in which they're monitored closely for any physiological responses. And pharmacology is essentially just how normal behavior and normal body function, normal physiology is altered in the presence of a drug. And so, number of studies doing that. We also learn a lot about how drugs affect people in what are referred to as anecdotal studies. And that is, and this is more common in drugs that don't have any therapeutic effect, or are not therapeutic medications, but are illicit drugs. And people take the drugs, they're observed by others, they're observed by police, social workers, psychologists, and all of that information is put together. That's anecdotal information, and it tells us how people respond when they take certain drugs.
Okay, and you studied those things, correct?
I have.
Okay. Now I want to talk about alcohol first. What is the effect, generally, of alcohol on the human body?
Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, and its principal effects are to make you drowsy. It acts initially in an area of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision-making, risk-taking behavior, and essentially governs the way that people act on a day-to-day basis. And so those things that you would do, those behaviors that you might consider unacceptable when you're not under the influence of alcohol, like dancing on tables or putting a lampshade on your head. When you're under the influence of alcohol, those kinds of behaviors seem more acceptable. And so people engage in more bellicose, unusual behaviors, and they also lose the ability to judge risk. And so things that a sober person would think are too risky to do, a person under the influence of alcohol will not recognize that risk.
Okay, now your analysis showed that the alcohol level in Mr. Knight's system was at .08, correct?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and that is what's commonly called the legal limit, right, in terms of driving?
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of timing, would .08 reflect the alcohol level at the time of death? Does it increase, decrease after death, or would it be the same?
In post-mortem analysis, we are measuring the alcohol concentration at the time of death, even if that measurement is made at some later time.
Okay, so it's fair to say that his blood alcohol level was .08 at the time of his death?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about cocaine. What are the effects of cocaine on the human body?
Cocaine is classified as a central nervous system stimulant. Interpreting cocaine's effect on the body outside its stimulant effects, especially on the heart, it increases heart rate, increases blood pressure. In terms of its neurochemistry, the way that it acts in the brain is largely dependent upon the history of the person who's used cocaine, how frequently they use, whether the person is binging on cocaine, whether they are taking the cocaine to stop the adverse effects of withdrawal. So in a person who even just casually uses cocaine, they can experience withdrawal effects. Withdrawal is always an unpleasant experience. The essence of using or abusing drugs is to remove unpleasant experiences and essentially for a person to attempt to alter their particular version of reality. And so the drug can actually be euphoric and relaxing in the person who is trying to come off withdrawal. So in other words, they're withdrawing from the drug, they take cocaine, their neurochemistry balances, and you become relaxed and euphoric. If the person is not in withdrawal and takes cocaine, then the effect, although there can be some euphoria because it releases the what we call the pleasure neurotransmitter, dopamine, the drug can also make you agitated, excited, very stimulated, hard to sit still, and depending on the individual, some people become much more aggressive in their behavior.
Okay. I want to talk about alpha PVP. What are the effects of alpha PVP on the human body?
Alpha PVP is in a class of drugs called cathinones. And these drugs are predominantly stimulants, but they are also hallucinogens. And although they are stimulants, they don't act in the same way as the classic stimulants like methamphetamine and cocaine. The cathinones are largely unknown because none of them are approved for therapeutic use. And so they've never been through any of the normal clinical trials, like FDA trials, that try and tell us what the proper dose of a drug is to exert a certain effect. And so what happens with the cathinones is, and drugs like alpha-PVP, is they act widely throughout the brain, any place that there are receptor sites, which are simply proteins that when a drug attaches to the protein, it releases neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the things in the brain that cause effects. And the effects that are caused are the release of serotonin and the release of norepinephrine. And what those do is they can make a person hyperstimulated, hallucinogenic, or they can hallucinate, so they lose touch with the world around them, and exactly what they perceive and the way they perceive it is generally some type of paranoia. And the hallucinations, although of course everything differs based on the person's any underlying pathology, any underlying disease, any underlying mental illness, but the reports from users are typically that the hallucinations are disturbing. People feel like they're being chased, they're under attack, and they become extremely paranoid. And one of the common things that has been discovered in people under the influence of these drugs is that the norepinephrine effect makes them seem impervious to pain and makes them seem stronger than they would normally be. And essentially that's just the action of they no longer are in touch with those feelings and emotions, and so they can engage in these behaviors that require 5 or 6 police officers to subdue them, or require the use of chemical agents to subdue them when they're under the influence of these drugs. And then finally, the worst effect of the drug is that it can cause something called malignant hyperthermia. And that's an effect where the body loses its ability to control temperature. So body temperature rapidly increases and can get as high as 113, even 115 degrees, whereas normal body temperature being 98.6. And that's why the more graphic episodes of alpha-PVP use that we saw at this time in Broward County involved people stripping their clothes off because they just simply couldn't cool down. And that ultimately is what we believe is the essential mechanism underlying death in these people. Your body essentially just breaks down all its protein, and it's can no longer function under these high temperatures.
Okay, so, and just to go back, you found the presence of ethanol or alcohol in Mr. Knight's system, correct?
Correct.
And cocaine?
Yes.
And alpha-PVP?
Yes.
And some marijuana use, but it could have been previous?
Correct. We found the inactive metabolite of marijuana.
Okay. And alpha-PVP can cause agitation?
Yes.
It can cause violent behavior?
Yes.
And alpha-PVP can affect behavior even if it wasn't recently used, correct?
Yes, there are a number of reports demonstrating that people who have ceased taking alpha-PVP, that the changes in the brain persist for a prolonged period of time, and even just discussing in group therapy and things like that, they can suddenly revert to that same situation as if they had just taken a dose of alpha PBP.
Okay. Judge, may I have a moment?
Yes.
I don't have any more questions, Doctor. Thank you.
Redirect, state.
Yes, Your Honor. Very brief. Dr. Krinsman, can you tell us how Bacardine Night reacted to alcohol?
No,
Can you tell us how Bacardine Night reacted to cocaine?
not specifically, no.
Can you tell us how Bacardine Night reacted to PVP?
No,
How about marijuana?
no,
Can you tell us how much he took?
no.
Can you tell us when he took it?
Not outside of that broad categorization I gave of marijuana and cocaine, but for alpha PVP, absolutely not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. You may step down. You're excused.
Thank you.
State, go ahead. You may call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Detective Stephen Toyota, recalls.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Stephen Toyota, Toyota.
Detective, make yourself comfortable. Close to the microphone. State whenever you're ready. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective Toyota.
Good morning.
Do you recall where we left off when you were last on the stand?
I do.
Okay, may I approach the witness?
Yeah.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as State Exhibit State Exhibit 8.
Okay, this is the same CD from the other day.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would like to publish State Exhibit 8 to the jury.
Very well. Go ahead.
Your side of the story. There's always, perception is a funny thing. There's always, if all four of us were in a room or on the corner and we witness an accident, we all may have slightly different versions. We may have not just slightly different versions, drastically different versions. That's human nature. So, it's up to you. We try to be thorough, and it's really no skin off our back if you don't want to talk.
It's not like that at all. It does benefit you. This is a chance that we hear your side of the story. That comes into play.
And that's why I mentioned you not signing that letter, because to me it's just an anonymous letter. We assume it was from you, but that's not. We can't say for sure that that's your version because. Sure. Can you write? I don't know. Put your hands. We'll have to go over your rights. John, any chance you want to take someone?
Yeah.
1404. Is it elders or elder?
Sorry, Judge. Sorry, I'm trying to... Thanks.
feeling better than yesterday, right?
You try to slide this over to.
Let's get this down.
What meds are you on, do you know?
Okay, no pain or?
No, it's never any pain. It's just, imagine being as big as you are, but having the strength of like a little baby.
But last night, this is some of your breathing.
So the main thing is grog is what I have, and what it does is it puts something in your blood that blocks your muscles from basically doing what your nerves say. So you have a muscle that makes you breathe too. That's because they got there and I couldn't breathe.
Okay. That's scary. Okay, I want you to read along. Sign, but this is your rights. General Hospital last night. 7/24/14. This is our case number, time, and then put down here. So please yourself. Before I ask you any questions, I want to advise you of your rights under the law. Do you understand enough, police officer? You have the right to remain silent. That is, you need not talk to me or answer any questions if you do not want to. Do you understand? Okay. You have the right to talk to an attorney/lawyer before talking to me, and have an attorney/lawyer here with you during questioning now or later. Do you understand? If you cannot afford to retain your own attorney/lawyer, but you want an attorney, one will be appointed for you before we ask you any questions. Do you understand? If you decide to answer questions now without an attorney present, you still have the right to decide to answer my questions at any time until we talk to them. Do you understand? Should you talk to me, anything you say can or will be used against you in court of law. Do you understand? Knowing and understanding your rights as I have explained them to you, are you willing to answer my questions without an attorney present? You're willing to talk to us now without an attorney present, right? Okay, and then the next paragraph says, I, just print your name, Demetrius. I've read the statement of my rights, but I've had it read to me and I understand what my rights are. I'm going to make a statement and answer questions. I do not wish an attorney to be present at this time. No threats or promises have been made to me. No pressure of any kind has been used against me. I understand and know what I'm doing, and the statement will be used in court of law against me. Is that correct? Okay, sign. Sign, date, and time. Today's 24th, current time.
10:46 a.m.
Okay, you want to just start off, tell us what happened that night? If you want to...
I was going to say, if you want, I mean, it's more than just that night.
Yeah, but just saying, if you want to do a previous and set up what, you know, what caused this whole thing? I mean, start from the beginning.
So, maybe at the beginning of the year, or maybe late last year, a bunch of people are over at Walter's house. I wasn't there. Walter was fighting with his wife. And then Marlon, Armando, and another one of our friends was over there. The two guys tried to intervene, tried to stop the fight between Armando and the other guy that was there. Tried to stop the fight between Walter and his wife. Both of them got into it with Walter. The one with Walter and Armando escalated that Armando ended up breaking Walter's jaw. Walter called me that night, telling me the whole story, what happened. And he didn't really tell me that he was fighting with his girlfriend. He told me that him and Marcia got into it. He said, because of the charge. Then I saw him, later. He told me.
Saw Walter?
Yeah. And again told me that, everybody was arguing or whatever. He got it. Marcia told me what happened. That he was fighting with his girl and my other friend.
Who did you say?
Armando.
Okay, March.
Okay. Marlon and Marcia told me that it was because they tried to stop him fighting with his wife.
When you say fighting with his wife, you mean like physically?
Yeah.
Okay.
After that, like Armando and Walter, they weren't as close as they were, but they had been around each other numerous times after that. Like they had been to Armando's house and to Marlon's house. And the night of the actual incident, before me and Armando drove to the courthouse, Walter had came by and asked him to just shoot me straight. So
Came by where though?
Armando's house.
Okay.
Everything was fine. It didn't seem like there was any beef or anything.
Like it was squashed?
But it was squashed, yeah. They just weren't as close as they were before that. Then the night that it happened, I went to Armando's house. He wanted to go to the court's house because Marlon was over there. And before that, Wall called me asking what I was doing with this thing. I was going to Armando's house. So he just came by. I think he just came by just to show off because he had to.
Came by
Armando's house.
Okay, so you were at Armando's house and then Walter and a couple girls stopped by there.
Yeah, and that spoke for like 5-10 minutes, told everyone to see Marlon. And then he left and Marlon and I drove to the Corey's house. When we got to Corey's house, it was Corey, another guy. He's always around. I can't think of his name. I know him, but I don't know him like that. Marlon was leaving, like when we pulled up, Marlon was leaving, he said he was going to the store. Him and another guy was in the car. This guy was like a business partner of Marlon or something. So we waited, Marlon came back, then me, Marlon, and March, or Armando, and the guy just, shot the shit for a while. And then Walter, I don't know if Walter pulled up before Marlon left, but Walter ended up pulling up with the same two chicks. And then another guy named Randy, he got dropped off over there. And I don't know if this before or after Marlon left. But after Marlon left, he ended up getting me, Corey's girlfriend had arrived at that time. Armando, Walter, the other guy named Randy. And it was that one guy that was there that I don't remember his name, and another guy picked up. He had been around over there before, but I don't really know what he knew. So we were there maybe 5, maybe more than 10 minutes, couldn't remember 10 minutes. So you know how Corey's house was. So where the garage is, we were all on the street. The street's kind of like right at the edge of the curb.
On the front of his house or the side of his house? Because you go on the corner.
Right, no, like if you were driving into his
driveway, further.
Yeah, and we were standing right there. Armando was standing in the grass because he had tried to talk to Walt and Walker's.
About that?
No, I mean, Armando had apologized like so many times to him. Saying he should have apologized.
The same thing with like in his jaw, right?
Yeah, Armando apologized to him, telling him like, hey, bad, he should have got involved, and he said he was trying, because the kids was there also. So, but then, like I said, 10 minutes may have passed at most, and then another guy came. This guy I've never seen this guy before. He came, he spoke to, like all of them, beginning of March, so he didn't speak to any one of us. He walked into Corey's house. He walked through the garage, and he spoke to Corey for a few minutes, and he came out. When he came out, he walked up to March, and then March was standing like by himself. He walked to March and he stood beside him, and he started asking questions like he was trying to figure out who he was. He asked like where I know you from, and what do they call him? And March just said, you don't know me from, I don't know you. He said his name, I think. So then the guy walked away from March or Armando, and he walked up to the I was standing beside Walter, going and he pulled up to the side. They had a conversation at the time. I didn't know what the conversation was. You didn't hear it? Yeah, I couldn't hear it. But I do know when they finished their conversation, and before the guy walked back up to Armando, he said, these niggas got the game fucked up. And he walked back to Armando and then again asked him, like, you know, sure, I don't know you from anywhere. Then Walter pulled me to the side, and Walter said, man, why you even bring this nigga around here? You don't even know me. Y'all got to set up. You said, you all got to know. You said, I don't know, why did you bring this nigga around here? You don't even know that. And you said, Corey, or he said, like in June, y'all got set up. You
guys didn't get set up. You might just talk them on, right?
No, we got set up. Because the guy wasn't there at all. The guy, so whatever.
Oh, you mean, okay.
That was my team. I can tell something's wrong, and if us four in here, and the other officer walks in here, if he know us three and he don't know her, I mean, he wouldn't walk right up to her and talk her. I could keep something wrong. So that was my key. I'm walking to her. And we left. Now, how far was the side of the house? That was my team. I can tell something's wrong. I mean, if us four in here and the other officer walks in here, if he know us three and he don't know her, I mean, if you want to walk right up to her and talk to her, I can feel something's wrong. So that was my key. When Walter told me that, I pulled Armando and we left. Now I parked on the side of the house, not where the I don't know if you remember, there's a tree on the side. I was parked like right under that tree. We got in the car, and the stop sign from the tree is less than 100 feet, maybe. It's not that far at all. So I pulled up to the stop sign, and then when I looked left for the traffic, to see the traffic was on. At the same time, I opened my door and I started coughing. Some shit was just trying to breathe whatever. And then the next thing you know, I can feel like the car kind of moving, and I hear Armando saying, D, you know this dude? Or D, you know this dude? You know me? And I look over, there's a dude on top of me. So I get out the car, I go around the back of the car, and then there's a car behind our car, or behind my car. And then there's a lady standing in the, like she had got out, but she was just standing right there in the driver's side. So I got out, ran around, and I'm trying to pull the guy off the Armando. It's the same shit with this, I was the same way. So I really wasn't doing too much to affect the situation. I wasn't doing anything to him. He was hitting March, and he had something in his hand. You can tell it was a bottle, like as if a bottle had been broken. And at first he was like on top of March, like punching him, and I was behind him trying to like hold his arm and trying to not let him punch him. And then I don't know how long this could have went on, but not that long. I mean, probably, I guess, a good 20, 30 seconds, maybe, I don't know. But then, and then Armando, then he started screaming like he was trying to kill him. He's trying to cut my throat. He's trying to cut my throat. But again, I got on top of him, trying to pull his arm away so he couldn't do anything much. And it never, I couldn't. So then at the same time while I'm trying, I moved on the passenger floorboard, and there was a little knife. I guess unfolded, maybe like this moment or something. I don't know. It wasn't like it was like a work knife, like a knife you would just carry around.
Was it a folding knife?
Yeah, folding knife. So then I picked the knife up, and you know I picked the knife up again, I kept trying to get the dude to get off Armando, but he didn't, and then I stabbed him in his lower back somewhere. When I stabbed him in his lower back, then he got off of Armando. He turned around and he looked at me and he mumbled something. I don't know what he mumbled, and I backed up out of the way. He kind of walked around, stumbled around the car, and he went to where the chick was, that girl that was in the car with me. Then I was standing there, like he had met up with the girl, and I was still standing there. I didn't move. And then I left. So then I ran back around the car, got in the car, and then I went right and we left. The whole time this was happening, the girl was screaming. I mean, to the top of her lungs, she was screaming. And again, you know how close a stop sign is from Corey's house. Nobody came at all. Nobody came. She just kept screaming. She was right there in the car screaming. The whole time I'm hoping somebody came. Nobody came. And we left. Two people were calling Walter and Rain. Rain was calling asking me if I was okay and what happened. Walter was calling me just to say he didn't have nothing to do with it and not to talk to me about it. Then we left. The following, that Monday, Walter was at the same thing that I did. So Walter called me that morning and he was like, should I come to work or whatever? And I was like, yeah, come to work. So he came, but he wasn't there to work because he didn't have work clothes yet. So he just wanted to speak to me. So at first him and I went outside of my job, and then he was just telling me that, he didn't have nothing to do with this. It was fucked up and that the guy acted on his own. And he just kept explaining he didn't have nothing to do with it. Then we went inside my job to like another conference room, kind of like we were in. And then when we went in there, he said, man, God, we not have nothing to do with this. He said, this guy had asked me twice if you wanted. Well, first he said the guy found out. He said after all the situation when his jaw got broke, a bunch of their friends was, I guess, back in the courthouse. Corey and Walt, this guy, the guy that died, and another guy. I don't even know the other guy, but he said it was another guy. They were there, and that's when the dude found out, and the guy was like, I guess him and Walt must have known each other for a while. So he said, and they found out, Walt is not very big, Armando is kind of bigger than Walt, so they kind of asked Walt if he wanted him to handle Armando. Walt told me, he said,
Want a drink?
no, it's not even a drink, it's just when I let the breathing part. He told the guy, Walter told me that he told the guy that, no, I can handle my own business. And then he said, even when the guy pulled me away, this is when I said the guy pulled Walter away, I know what they said. Walter told me, even when the guy pulled me away, that's when he asked me if he wanted me to take care of Armando. And Walter he said no, he handled his own business. And he said that was it. He said, acted on that home. After that, I didn't see him tomorrow. He came when I was in the hospital the first time. Yeah. He came to visit me. We didn't discuss that whole situation at all. He was just like, he was wondering, he said, this has been going on for a while, but I was like, it was just me not being in shape or something. And he just was like, that's what was wrong with me. Stayed with him and ended up. Then I didn't talk to him again until that, so whatever day, the day that I called you from Ashley's home.
The three-way call?
Yes.
That was May 3rd. Oh, I'm sorry. That was,
it was after.
May 10th. It was after we took the car, and then we had the warrant for.
So,
oh, wait, you know what? No, we didn't take body one on the so it was the following week. But that day he called.
Before I called you, I called Walt, and I was like, you need to go and tell the truth. Then I never spoke to Walter again, and I just been trying not to be arrested and hope that, the guys from the house would say what happened. I hoping that the witness, the chick, she was there. I was hoping that she would say what happened, but I guess none of that ever happened.
Where do you stay all the time?
Different places. I'll be all over the place.
You still together with Ashley or not?
Do I?
Are you still together or
hope so.
No, are you still?
I was before.
Okay.
After all this happened, when I went home, I didn't tell her what happened. Of course, she found out later, but I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her like the details.
Okay, I want to go over some more specifics. Were you drinking at the party?
I couldn't drink.
Smoke?
Nothing.
What about March?
If he wasn't at the, when we were at home. Everybody that was there that was drinking, they all had like a couple of dudes standing there that smoked a black mom.
Yeah, what about when you guys got in the party? You remember if you were drinking anything? There was a bottle in the car, on the floorboard. Yeah, but only one big bottle.
Yeah, that was a ball of Hennessy. I didn't go back and saw stuff in the back of that just because all the stuff that I was taking from my house put in Ashley's house.
Okay, but when you guys left the party, did either one of you guys have a drink in your hand or anything?
If I definitely didn't, I didn't have a drink because I couldn't drink. But if he did, I would see it. I don't.
What does he normally drink?
March. He usually drinks Jack Daniels.
You know where the knife came from that you found on the...
I'm assuming now, after all this happened, it was to be March's, but at the time, I knew it couldn't have been mine because I don't have a 40 knife, but that was my car.
Well, let's not assume something. Let's also go by that, I don't know, we know that from the time of the incident, the time we first started making contact with you, you and March are still in contact. Matter of fact, I'm sure as soon as you guys pulled away, you guys were discussing, holy shit, what just happened?
Nah, well, yeah, we didn't go.
So, even if you didn't see March take it out, you already came out in conversation.
Nah, not really. I didn't, when we drove, it was kind of silent. And when we parked, his wife got us to take me home. And when his wife in the car, it was kind of silent too. I was still kind of like, what the fuck just happened? And like, what shit did I do for you?
I think that's what he's talking about.
Okay, then maybe not that night. The next day, 2 days later, 3 days later. I'm sure you guys would discuss just like anything. It's like
it never came up that the knife that I got, that he never said was his. I'm putting it together because Armando, I guess, stabbed the guy, and then I found the knife on the floorboard.
So you knew Armando stabbed him because you saw him where he was lying?
No, I'm going by evidence. I'm going by everything that's happening. I didn't see him, but when the guy was on top of Armando, I'm on top of the guy's back. And Armando's under the guy, so I couldn't see what Armando was doing, except when I did get the knife, I could see what Armando was doing because I could see Armando was like trying to hold the guy's, his hands. But at first I couldn't really tell what was going on.
Did you get injured in any way?
Nah, that was my only contact really, was me trying to pull the guy off of Armando, and then I picked up the knife and I stabbed the guy in the back, and then, like I said, I backed up. The guy turned around and got off the mark, turned around and mumbled something to him, and then he like walked away to the girl that was in that car.
What about Armando? Did he have any injuries?
So he had like a plastic lip or something. He had like scratches on his hand, and then he had I guess a cut. There was blood on his head. I don't know if it could have been from his hands or whatever, or the guy, or him. But he had blood.
He just had blood on his head. Natural work. He had a lactation on his head.
Correct.
Any other injuries that he had or complained about that you know?
No, not really.
See, this is kind of what I'm getting at also though, I'm sure you guys should talk. What did he say happened? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're coughing out the door.
The only thing he told me was that somebody came to the door, opened the door, and hit him. He said he got hit with something. He said he defended himself. And then he said when the guy started trying to cut the neck, that's when he started telling me to like help me about me to kill the guy was trying to.
Help me understand one thing. This is what I'm hearing. You guys are at the stop sign, but you're waiting, I guess, traffic or whatever the case may be, right? You're driving and Marge is the passenger, right? All right. So, I know you said before that you felt the car shaking and whatnot. What was being said? Did this guy say anything?
The guy, I didn't hear say nothing. The first thing, I never heard the guy talk at all. The only thing I heard Marge was saying, like, me asking me if I knew the guy, and Marge asking the guy, like, do you?
No, I understand that part. What I'm saying is, this guy, you said you felt the car shake.
No, I didn't hear him say anything. I mean, I was shocked that the guy was there.
Were the windows down? Up?
No, the windows were up.
So did he open the door? Who opened the door?
I don't know. I wasn't, like, so when I pulled up to the stop sign, I'm looking for traffic, and then I'm opening my door so I can cough and spit. And that's when I feel the car moving and I hear Armando singing, like, again, after the fact, I assumed and I felt the car moving, that was the door being open. Who opened it? I don't know.
All I'm saying is that, keep in mind, as close as you are to, this object here, yeah, even closer. How do you not know, doors being open,
Because I opened my door and I was moving out the car, and it happened around the same time. I don't know. I mean,
that's the part that gets me, but all right, we'll get back to that.
So when you leave there, where did you park the car?
So at first, I drove to a friend of mine's house just to gather myself. Then we drove to Armando's house, and I parked the car there overnight so Armando's wife would take me home. The very next day, I went and got the car and parked it to the view.
We found it. Okay. Either after you left the scene or the next day when you picked up at Armando's house and you were home, did you clean it, alter it, take anything out, place it anywhere?
I left everything exactly the way it was because I knew, I didn't want to touch anything. I didn't want to move anything. I left everything the way it was. And I even took pictures myself. And then I parked it, like, in the
opposite side.
Right. For two reasons. One, because they were doing construction. And I couldn't park there. Actually, there's another car. So she going, leave one straight, she going to park one car there. We got parked over there because I didn't know how long the car would be still. And I didn't want nobody to touch it. I didn't want nothing to happen to the car. I didn't want anything to be moved from the car.
What picture are you talking about before?
I took pictures of the inside of the car in the passenger seat. There was blood like on the seat, and there was glass like shattered around the seat. So I took pictures of that.
What did you, okay, I know you took pictures to preserve it the way it was. Am I correct?
I took this in case, yeah, I didn't know what would happen.
Well, what do you think that indicates?
That I took pictures?
Yeah, like, no, what do you think the way you took the pictures of the scene and you left that is?
What are you getting in there?
Yeah, you being there, you lived there.
Wait, don't not understand the question.
You were involved in this, you took pictures for maybe one day to say, look, this is how my car was after the incident, correct? What did you think that what you saw, what do you think that indicates?
Oh, that. So when I saw the guy in Mars and I thought, when I saw it was black, I thought the glass on the chair was from him kicking off my blood. I figured because by the time I actually got to look at the passenger seat, I had kind of knew what happened. Because the guy knocked out. The Walter called. He was asking me what happened. Well, not what happened. He was asking me, telling me he didn't have nothing to do with it. And he said he saw the guy walk back, but he thought he got hit by a car because he saw the blood. So I even thought, at first I thought it was a Armando blood, but the scratches on his face weren't bad.
Yeah,
like there was a lot of blood on the seat. Then I put it together that there was blood from the other one. Or you know, assuming that.
When did you find out he died?
Probably like sort of that Saturday, Randy called me and again asking me what happened, if I was okay, but I didn't know what happened. And then I asked him what happened to the guy. And he said he thought the guy died, but he wasn't 100% sure. I found out positively that Monday I spoke to him. Okay.
Detective Toyota, did you threaten the defendant in any way in order to get him to give you that statement?
No.
Did you promise the defendant anything in order to get that statement?
No.
No further questions. Thank you.
Fence? Good morning.
You spoke to Mr. Elder on July 24th, 2014,
I did.
Okay, and that's what we just heard?
Yes.
Okay. You tried to speak with him the day before that, correct?
I did.
And he was at the hospital?
He was?
He was at the hospital when you went on his leg also, correct?
Correct.
And he wasn't in a condition to speak with you, correct?
No, I don't think I wouldn't have thought it would be acceptable taking a statement under that condition.
Okay. Now, you talked with him, and that's also Detective Zeller, correct?
Correct.
You talked with Mr. Elder about where he parked his car that night of the incident.
I did.
Okay. And he told you that he parked on the side of Corey's house, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. McMath, Corey McMath's house, the address is actually Claridge Drive, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the exact address.
Okay. If you were to look at it.
A map would help.
the map, okay?
Or a report. I just don't know what the address is off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to show you Detective Bertrand's report, just to refresh your recollection, if you want to just read just the first page to show you what it is.
Okay.
And then if you want to look at the second page, read it to yourself and let me know what your recollection is.
Well, I don't know if I have a recollection of the address, but you want me to just use this as a reference?
Well, if it doesn't refresh your recollection, if you never knew the address, then that's...
I can't say that I ever knew the address.
Okay.
I knew the location, but I don't recall ever knowing the address.
Okay. So you know that the incident location is the stop sign of Terra Road and Miramar Parkway, correct?
I do.
And that Mr. McMath lived about a block down,
Correct.
Were you aware that his front door faces Claridge Drive, not Terra Road?
Yes. His front door faces north.
Okay. So the side of his house is actually on Terra Road?
Yes.
Okay. So if you were parked on the side of the house at Terra Road, to get to the stop sign at Terra Road, Miramar Parkway, you would need to turn, correct?
As long as, oh, I don't know, it depends on which way the car's facing, yes.
Okay. But you wouldn't need to be on Claridge Drive to get to the intersection where this happened, correct?
You wouldn't have to be, but yeah, you wouldn't have to be, no.
Okay. Now, he told you that he did not know Mr. Knight until that evening, correct?
Correct.
And that when he got there, Mr. Knight, he first spoke to Corey McMath.
I'm not sure if there was, I'm not sure I remember an order, but he said hi to everybody that was there initially, other than Armando Baptista and Demetrius Elder.
Okay, but he then said, first he talked to Corey McMath, correct?
Give me 1 second, please. Any chance you have it marked in your statement so I could just pull it up? I just don't remember the order he said that he spoke to everybody, if you're asking me if he met Corey first.
So you believe that if you were to see a transcript of the statement that we just heard, that would refresh you?
Yes, yes.
May I approach it?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the front page so that you know what you're looking at. And then I'm going to direct you to
Okay.
page, read to yourself.
On page 4, on page 4. Yes, he spoke to Corey first. That's what Demetrius Elder told me, that he spoke to Corey first.
Okay. And then he told you that Mr. Knight went and talked to Mr. Baptista, Armando Baptista, correct?
He did?
Okay. And then after that, he went and talked to Walter Stanley, correct? Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Talked to Walter Stanley. Okay. And then after that, he went back and talked to Armando Baptista, correct?
That's what Demetrius Elder told me, yes.
Okay. Now, he also indicated to you that Walter was with Mr. Knight when Mr. Knight got back in the car and they were pulling away, correct? Well, that he heard that.
Just say that one more time.
Sorry, okay. Mr. Elder indicated to you that what he learned later was that Mr. Stanley was with Mr. Knight as Mr. Knight pulled away from the house. Do you remember telling that?
No, not specifically. Is that marked on the same statement? There's a couple of references to Walter Stanley conversations between those two.
Judge, I want to make an objection regarding the best evidence rule.
Objection's overruled, go ahead.
So, again, reviewing the report, or the transcript with the refresher recollection.
Working on it.
Yes, why don't you just direct me?
Yes,
Okay.
that'd be great.
To the bottom of page 5.
Second last paragraph?
Well,
So you could even go over to the side and
okay.
find out.
Just the last answer. Mr. Elder is telling you that Walt said, "I can handle my own business," even when the guy pulled away, correct? Oh, you're assistant.
Yeah, we have a different format, that's why I'm not sure. No, that's actually not exactly what he says.
Okay, what did he tell you about Mr. Stanley telling him?
I think in the context, it would be better to read the whole thing. Demetrius Elder's answer begins with, like the breathing part. He told the guy, Walter told me that he told the guy, now I can handle my own business. And then he said, even when the guy pulled me away. That's what's on there. So that would indicate the time he spoke to him, to me.
Now, you didn't speak to any of the hospital personnel about Mr. Elder's condition, did you?
Not that I recall now.
Okay. And you were aware, obviously, that this case involved allegations of some type of physical altercation, correct?
I did.
Okay. And you also knew that Ms. Bengolis was claiming that Mr. Elder and Mr. Baptiste were punching and kicking Mr. Knight, correct?
I don't remember the specifics of what Ms. Gambolis gave.
Okay. So you didn't think it would report your investigation to find out what his condition was while he was in the hospital?
He told me what his condition was.
Okay. But you didn't speak to any of them?
No.
Judge Manley?
Yep.
I don't have any more questions, thank you.
Are you direct?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you're to do the technical.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break here, maybe 10 minutes. We're going to come back. The state's going to call another witness. I'd like to I know we lost about an hour today, so I'm going to try and compress things a little bit. We're going to take unless you need a lift or lunch, I'm going to try and compress lunch as well. So we'll just take 10 minutes, okay? And of course, remember, don't talk about the case